It is the Doomsday Podcast, and Edward and I doing our
popcorn ready. Another Doomsday Podcast coming at you from Oxnard, California. The last, by the way. Not forever, I don't think.
I think.
But the last episode from out here before the Cowboys play the Rams on Sunday.
To truly honor T.O., you have to undo it, and you have to pour it out on your face.
I think housekeeping would prefer us not do that.
You're revealing where we are. I think it's pretty obvious. We perhaps are in one of our hotel rooms here in beautiful Ventura, California. We have now had 3 days of Cowboys camp. We've looked at it from every angle, and it's been a lot of fun, Ed. And we've, Trey Lance, Stephen Jones, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. In more, we'll kind of give all the context of what exactly happened. But Ed, first of all, last night you had a moment where, as I was going to set up things with Stephen, you ran into his dad, Jerry, and so you had a few moments with Jerry, and then as we holed up with Stephen, there was some things starting to happen and starting to come in motion, and I would say a tweet, and it sort of all involved all of us, but there was a CeeDee Lamb situation last night that ended up getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, right after the Cowboys and Rams finished their joint practice, and as you said, you were sort of escorting with Tad Carper, the Cowboys PR executive. You were escorting Stephen Jones to our location, our secret location, at the Residence Inn over there where they're headquartered. And I noticed that Jerry was standing there and speaking to a small group of media. And so I joined that group of media. And Jerry said something that was quite puzzling to a degree. He said there's no urgency in getting the CeeDee Lamb holdout resolved. And, he was taken to task, and then he explained that position in some bizarre way. He talked about, you can blame it on Nobu, where they had their media party on the beach the other night. And he said, I went to college and I went to high school. Anyway, after that, nothing made sense, if that made sense. His original statement made any sense. And I guess, I think it does from the standpoint of he really doesn't have any urgency right now to get this done. The urgency will come as the regular season week 1 against the Browns draws closer. That's when the urgency will hit Jerry. But for now, as we heard from Stephen yesterday, they're working hard to get it done, but they recognize the value of allowing these young receivers to get extra reps, both for their development and for the ability of the coaches to further evaluate them as potential candidates for the roster. And so there really isn't any urgency, but Stephen was really insightful, and we've gotten a lot of attention for the interview we did with Stephen Jones, which is still readily available to those who want to see it, hear it, read the transcript. We have it available. And I think there's some more things we should talk about relative to what Stephen said, especially not only with CeeDee Lamb's situation, but with Dak Prescott, with Micah Parsons, and some other topics we discussed with him before we get to another one-on-one interview to offer our audience.
Major cornerback, perhaps the Cowboys' biggest addition this year, who was already on the roster but is returning to the team. Mike, from the Rogue Media Network, please play the music. Ed, been quite a stay here, and as you said, our interview with Stephen, there's a lot of things that are coming out of that. Not only the Dak part of it, the CD part of it. Let's start, since CD was a huge story last night when people were reacting to CD saying LOL in that tweet, and that's what kind of took off and everything, of Jerry saying, I've got no sense of urgency, which, as a longtime Jerry interpreter, I think basically Jerry was just being honest and saying he didn't have to be here tomorrow, like a lot of negotiations, until it really hits the deadline. I mean, the only time he's ever let a star player, get into the season without playing was Emmett, and that was disastrous all those years ago. But one of those statements Stephen made to us, and you probably have it over there in front of you, Ed, so I'll let you maybe allude to it. But he was very, very emphatic when, in the context of you bringing up the Ayuk situation and possible trade partners, and in that case it's like a hold in where he's actually been in camp
to avoid being fined.
Correct.
But he's not participating and trying to leverage the 49ers
Yeah.
into a contract as CD is doing, but CD has chosen to be absent and expose himself to the potential daily fines. But the 49ers, as you suggested, are growing weary of the situation. And basically Ayuk and Lamb are the only big-time receivers still engaged in a contract impasse in an offseason where a lot of receivers have received $30 million per year or more, whether their contracts were up or not. And I think the thing that Jerry maybe didn't take into consideration with his remark about there being no urgency was how CD Lamb was going to react. And he obviously reacted in a negative way, suggests he didn't like it in terms of he has basically eliminated the Cowboys from any of his reference in his social media. What's been said between the two since that time, we don't know, but we know immediately Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott publicly took CD's side, as you would expect. But yeah, so relative to the Brandon Ayuk situation, I asked Steven if he could ever see the CD Lamb situation deteriorating to the point where the Cowboys listened to trade offers for CD Lamb, and he could not have been more emphatic in saying that there was a 0, 0, 0 chance that CD Lamb would play anywhere else. And then I guess maybe he took a little bit of a risk as well in trying to explain to us that, they control CD Lamb.
So he can't play anywhere else.
Yeah, he said he can't play anywhere else. He's under contract, first of all, which he is. He has 1 year left on his fifth-year option at $17 million. And obviously, Justin Jefferson's at the top among receivers and salary at like $34 million. And then he said, we also have the franchise tag. As if, hey, if this goes beyond this season, we're capable of still controlling him. And you get the sense that that's the leverage that's probably been mentioned to CD and his representatives. But he did say CD Lamb is not going anywhere but Dallas. But he also said, hey, we want this to be a great situation for him when it's all said and done. We want to put a great football team on the field. He said, we think the world of CD. We understand where he's coming from on this and why he's not here, but that they continue to work very hard on getting this done. And as interesting as all that was, I thought what he said about Dak Prescott may have been even more fascinating.
Yeah, and the part of the Dak, and I'm sure you have it there, the part of the Dak that jumped out at me was like, he talked about him and obviously said great things. We had some interesting talk with him about Trey Lance. But at some point, he said, we view it as a partnership with Dak. And I think before he even came on, or maybe last night, you made the point, like, it's been an interesting partnership, hasn't it? I mean, Dak's obviously done a lot of great things as far as numbers are concerned and all that. I know everybody has wanted him to do better in the playoffs. But, I mean, the partnership that they kept letting him go to the franchise tag. And so I think it would be interesting for Dak to hear what Steven told us and to see what because the truth is he's kind of unflappable. Some players show their, Dak, even playing into the final year of his contract, which is almost unheard of for a quarterback of his caliber, really does not behave in any way that you would think, oh, there's a problem here.
Right. He's very professional in his approach.
Yes.
He's here. He's participating fully without any sort of restriction whatsoever. He's made no threats about leaving if this isn't resolved at any point, including he said he's not going to be involved, if this continues into the season. But he didn't say, I'm shutting it down and we're not listening to anything they have to say once the season starts. He's put no deadlines on this. But opposite of the CeeDee Lamb situation, where Stephen Jones declared, and accurately so, that they have controls over CeeDee Lamb at the end of this season or even now, once this season ends, the Cowboys have no controls over Dak Prescott. And I know people think he's overpaid and he hasn't delivered on what he's been paid, and nothing gets Cowboys fans more furious than discussing why Dak Prescott deserves top of the market quarterback money, which right now is $55 million, and he's making $40 million. So the thing is that the Cowboys paid him as a fourth-round draft pick for 4 years. When he finally had a chance to gain some leverage and do a deal more reflective of being a multi-year starter at quarterback and performing as he did, they twice used the franchise tag against him, which NFL players hate. It disadvantages them tremendously, just the threat of it, much less having it actually applied to them as Dak did twice. But through all that, the Cowboys have gotten themselves now into a position where Dak has total leverage against the franchise. And it was interesting to hear, Stevens say that, hey, we don't, because I said to him, the problem is you not only have to make him a top of the market player based on performance, but now arguably you have to pay him not to go to free agency. And Steven said, we don't look at it that way. We look at it like you said, Dak's our partner in this, and we're trying to win a championship, and nobody wants to win a championship, more than Dak Prescott. He said, I assure you of that. We don't look at it like we're trying to pay him not to go somewhere else. So I think it would be interesting to know, does Dak view it that way too? If he does, fine. But he's also said things before they reported to camp or once they got here like, hey, I'm prepared to go play somewhere else if I have to. I want to be here, but I'm prepared to go play somewhere else. And he noted a variety of quarterbacks from Tom Brady to Aaron Rodgers to, Brett Favre, Joe Montana, who have done, exactly that. Drew Brees, for various reasons, didn't play for a single franchise, although that's all the Cowboys have really known. Roger Staubach didn't go play anywhere else. Troy Aikman didn't go play anywhere else. He thought about it, came close to doing it, but he didn't. And so it's interesting. It'd be interesting to know also, I think, and I suggested this to Steven, does Dak feel appreciated by Jerry Jones? Or does this whole thing and getting to this point, while it's advantageous to Dak in negotiating his future, does it make him feel somewhat slighted? Because quarterbacks, this just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
With franchise type quarterbacks, and the exceptions are Kirk Cousins, who's now on his third team, and Dak Prescott, who's still on his first.
And again, to your point though, if this has not been done, it's not like the Cowboys probably haven't offered him big money. It takes two sides to get this done. But if the reason for this not getting done, and you've made this point, I think, at some point, is that they don't trust him, they don't think he can get over the hump, then maybe, and you're like, well, they paid him all this money to get him to this point. He's put up huge numbers, but then maybe it makes more sense. If you've dug a line in the sand, and let's say the number is 60, we are not going to get you to that number. We are not going to make you the highest paid quarterback in the game. And that's the line in the sand. And he can keep holding his line. They can keep holding theirs. And it is, if this thing gets going, and let's say, now, if they have a bad season and miss the playoffs, we think probably they'll at least get a wild card or whatever. But what are the different scenarios here, do you think? If they lose in the first round of the playoffs, Mike's probably gone. I still don't know.
Another guy who's in the last year of his contract.
Yes,
Mike McCarthy.
yes.
Inadvertently almost walked into our interview yesterday.
We did walk in, and then he walked out really quickly. I don't know. I still don't say we can say anything definitively what they would do with Dak. If Dak played poorly in another playoff game and they lost in the first round, would he just hit the free agent market?
Well,
or would they think they could get a discount on him at that point?
Well, if they wanted a discount, they should have tried to extend his contract when he led the league in interceptions with 15, and they had a terrible end to the season.
That would have been a good time.
But the fact that he was franchise tagged, broke his leg, and missed almost the whole season, and nobody knew what level he'd be able to play at again, and he still won that negotiation. That just tells you at the time the advantages Dak had and the leverage he possessed and how well it was used by Todd France. I think Jerry looks at, to some degree, Dak Prescott as a quarterback who has won far too many contract negotiations against him and not nearly enough postseason games.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as how this whole thing plays out, I think it's going to be fascinating. You mentioned Trey Lance, and Stephen Jones talks about Trey Lance and their view of him as a player. But how's he going to perform in this preseason? I think that's a potential factor. I mean, if he plays great this preseason and convinces Jerry that if he wants to move on from Dak Prescott, that he's a viable long-term, starting quarterback for this franchise who can play at a contending level, I mean, maybe that changes the equation if the Cowboys play poorly or eliminated earlier than they expected in the playoffs. The other potential is they suddenly reach their potential, surpass expectations, and end this 29-year drought of not reaching a championship game, and then Dak walks. That's the nightmare scenario for Jerry. The doomsday scenario for Jerry is Dak and the Cowboys win a championship game, go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, and he has no control over his quarterback's future.
I think at that point, he'd give him $70 million a year. But
even that might not be enough.
I think they get it done. I think if he breaks through. Now, what I would like for Jerry to do is do something he did to Zeke infamously after like a preseason game or whatever it was. I would like to hear a Trey Lance to have a phenomenal preseason game and Jerry come out and say, Dak who?
Like he did with Zeke.
Yes.
And Tony Pollard's debut was so impressive.
Yes.
And here's Zeke all these years later, still back with the franchise.
Yes, they can. You can come back home, even if Dak walks.
I think the argument, and we kind of need to wrap this part of the show up and get to our guest, but
we'll decide on that.
Okay, well, I never quite know if you're thinking along the same lines as I am, so I throw out these little suggestions and then see how you react to them. But you could argue that, and I think it's undeniable, really, that the Cowboys are responsible in large measure for putting themselves in this position with the way they've handled the negotiations. First of all, doing the Zeke, extension in 2019 after he held out was really regrettable. That they did him out of order. They had 2 more years of control. At the time, Dak was going out of contract. Amari Cooper was going out of contract. And it just turned everything upside down as far as their planning for the future and their dedicating their cap resources properly. Because you could argue right now that really Dak Prescott should already be secured, to a long-term deal. And so should CeeDee Lamb. And that, that their procrastination or their unwillingness to pay top market value and recognize the value of their stars early enough and pay them accordingly, that right now those 2 guys should be under contract and they should be trying to secure Micah Parsons to, a deal that's going to be below market for what he's going to get next year, assuming he has another great season. He's finished on the top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting all 3 years of his career, had more sacks each year than he had the previous year. That they should really be doing him now instead of wait until next year.
Yeah. One guy, Ed, that they did get ahead of a deal on and got a great deal and very deserving.
I wonder how they think that turned out since the guy got hurt right away.
Then he got hurt immediately, but we addressed that. The Doomsday Podcast, and we won't have video of this. Ed and I, we still have to jump out there after practice sometimes, so we can't we're not capable of taking tripods with us or anything.
That was quite an accomplishment to convince him just to stand there and talk to us.
He's a quiet, shy guy, and yet I thought he was eager to join us, and that was very cool. Cowboys All-Pro cornerback Trevon Diggs joins the Doomsday Podcast.
It is Mosley and Order Doomsday Podcast, and Trevon Diggs with us. And I mean, it's got to be fun to watch all this. I bet you were kind of dying to get in there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was fun to watch, to see the new defense in action, see the offense fly around a little bit. They look good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling physically, and how are you progressing?
Good. I feel really good.
What kind of tandem do you think you and Deron Bland are going to make?
We're going to make a good one. It's going to be fun. We'll have a lot of plays. A lot of plays going to be made, a lot of explosiveness. Yeah, it's going to be, we're going to put on a show.
What sort of has to happen before you're kind of full go, or are they just kind of taking it easy with you?
Yeah, up to me, I think I could go, but they got the better eye. They've been doing this, many years. It's my first time, so I'm just eager to get out there. But you don't want to rush things like that. You want to take your time. And when I'm back, I'm gonna be back 110%. So,
what impression has Mike Zimmer made on you, having replaced Dan Quinn, who's obviously had great success with Dan Quinn as a player?
Yeah, I feel like, football is football at the end of the day, different schemes, whatever is called, whatever play is called, it's your job to make the play in the call, right? And it's your job to make the plays inside of the defense. So he's going to set you up for success. So as long as you make the plays and, the plays that come to you, you'll be okay.
He came up as a defensive backs coach. Do you get that sense that that's his area of expertise, and he spends a lot more time there than in other places?
Yeah, 100%. He's always coaching. This is new. This is a new team, so it's a lot of things he has to cover. Outside of DBs and stuff. So you got to worry about the linebackers, the line, everyone. So he'll say his piece and be involved and get us right.
What was the most positive thing that happened from all this time? Like, did you learn anything about yourself or the game, being away from it a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as a blessing in disguise, just to, slow things down, take care of things that, I need to take care of, whether it's my body, what I'm eating, just things I'm doing, activities, maybe I need to spend more time with my family, so just trying to take whatever I can out from it and, just put my best foot forward, just off the field, and I had a lot of time to myself just to think and reflect, and I'm happy to be back now.
What are your personal expectations of yourself this year?
My personal expectations, I want to stay healthy the whole year, play the whole year, and make all the plays that come my way.
How pumped for Deron were you when he started having all those touchdown returns and everything?
I was super pumped, super excited. I've been seeing him since he came here. I always know he had that it factor, and I'm glad that he showed it and put it on display, and put the league on notice.
Will there be a little competition between the two of you guys? Have both led the NFL in interceptions 2 of the last 3 years.
Hopefully we can break a new record together.
Is it important to you to get like a little action, at least in the preseason, or is that not a big deal to you?
No, it's not a big deal to me. I feel like, me going against our guys being elite, how we practice, there's all the preseason I need. The game is a game at the end of the day. Nothing really different. They're not out here flying.
I remember all these great training camp one-on-one battles between you and CD.
Yeah, he
how
got
much
me right.
How much do you miss them?
Yeah, I miss him a lot, man. Miss him a lot. I miss competing. I love to compete. I've always been competing ever since. I've just been playing. Alabama, earning my spot, trying to, just win. So all I know is to compete. That's my favorite thing to do. I just bring the best out of me. So.
Go ahead.
Is there any wide receiver out here that's getting a lot of these reps that's really impressed you a lot or stood out to you? Any of the Cowboys receivers?
Cowboys receiver that stood out to me. I like Brooks. He's doing a really good job. They got a couple guys over there that's doing pretty good. They're doing good as a unit.
What do you think this team's capable of, having won 12 games 3 straight years, but failed kind of in the playoffs to accomplish what it expected?
Yeah, it's hard to win in the NFL, so us winning 12 games, for the past couple of years, is a pretty big accomplishment. I expect nothing less. Expect us to do better. We got the players, we got the quarterback, we got everything we need, so it should be no reason why, and this time, hopefully when we get there, we make it count.
You got a big deal made, a big long-term security contract last year about this time. Dak's still trying to get his, CD's out trying to get his. What sense of comfort did you feel? I mean, you suffered an injury. It could have been a whole different deal if you didn't have the security of that contract.
Yeah,
You understand how these guys feel about?
Yeah, that's why I look at it as a blessing in disguise, you know, because if I would have got hurt, you know, you never know what would happen. But you know, I understand where all these guys are coming from, you know. We love to play this game, but you know, it's important. We're trying to take care of our families, take care of ourselves, you know, be comfortable, you know, not to have any worry or any doubt. So you know, I understand where everyone's coming from. You know, you gotta put yourself first. It's the same way as you gotta put the team first, but you have to make sure that you're okay.
Has your popular son been out here any?
Yeah, he came earlier in the week.
Is he developing? Is he getting into like playing and stuff? How is he showing some skill?
Yeah, I'm gonna put him at quarterback though.
That's where the real money is.
Yeah. Gotta put him at quarterback.
Well, thanks for the time, Trevon,
Thank
and
you.
glad to see you getting healthy, and look forward to seeing you back out on the field.
Appreciate it. Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks, man.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Yeah.
you too.
All right, there was Trevon Diggs joining the Doomsday Podcast, joining quite a few. There's Trey Lance, Steven, and then Trevon Diggs, Stephen Jones, of course. Now, Ed, I thought you would like this. We were both at the joint practice, still out here in Southern California, Rogue Media Network. Thank you very much. Great hospital. I mean, it was just a great thing to do, and I think it's paid off in a big way. With just massive numbers, Ed. We've
justified the expense reports we're about to follow.
I've never tried to justify anything, but it was good. Rogue Media Network, and plus Mike and Zach and Corey and the whole gang, tremendous job turning all this around. Now, I did at the joint practice, I did some of my famous Mosley nuggets where I just kind of, I saw several things. I just want to hit on a few things to take people inside because it was a little difficult, Ed. They would do team offense for Rams first team against Cowboys first team over here and Cowboys first team against Rams first team. Now, I didn't do a whole lot of Rams coverage because it's not the podcast we do, but number 8 for the Rams is really good. I think he's a rookie linebacker. Oh, my gosh. What is the guy's name?
Number 8 for the Rams?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. His name is
Jared
Verse. Of course, outside linebacker.
Unbelievable watching that guy. Okay.
And so that'll be a guy to watch, and you're going to give us a couple more guys to watch in Cowboys uniforms on Sunday when they open the preseason against the Rams.
Early in that practice, a guy named Ryan Flournoy, we talked to Steven about him, climbed the ladder, made the best catch we saw during our few days in camp. Tremendous contested
Late
catch.
Late draft pick.
7th round pick, I believe. Cooper Beebe, who's vying for the starting center spot. I watched him in one-on-one pass rushing, which can be tough for the linemen. It seems like the defensive line always has the advantage there. Anchored extremely well. I was impressed. I think he's fitting in fine. I think they're going to end up loving him. Mozzie Smith, I went down there to watch him in one-on-ones, and you don't want to overdo it. But that was even one of the things we talked about. Steven loves maybe how the scheme fit with Zimmer, fits Mozzie, and Mozzie is doing some really nice things in camp. We used to talk about that with the kid came from Central Florida, though. Tristan somebody, and so we don't want to get too caught up in that. We also wanted to say, I looked up at one point, I'm like, wait, who's the Rams backup? And I'm like, oh, that's Garoppolo out there. And for our Longhorns fans, Jordan Whittington is now playing for the Rams and made some really nice catches. I would just say Ferguson, and by the way, we've got a crusty, mean-spirited tight ends coach. I think his name's Lunda Wells, perhaps.
Wells.
And a Rams player hit Ferguson. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't think Ferguson thought it was that big of a deal. But he hit him pretty hard on the sideline. And the tight end coach was threatening the guy. Like, you're talking about keeping these players out of skirmishes. They got to keep their tight ends coach out of skirmishes. I mean, he was getting heavily involved. In the run game, I will just say, Dowdle does look fast.
Rico
Dowdle, backup running back. This team is running back by committee. Look good. Also, Blake Corum for the Rams looked really good, the rookie. But Dowdle looks pretty good. And then in those run fits, I thought Zeke looked pretty good. And then I will say one more.
Zeke had a bad fumble.
He did have a bad fumble.
Semi-open field, too.
A young man that's joined the team named Eric Kendricks. huge, great hit on a run fit. And then who's our new favorite kid from Notre Dame? Leafau. The Maris Leafau, the rookie linebacker out of Notre Dame, 3rd round pick. And I'm just telling you, they could only thud. They're not totally wrapping up, but he had the best hit of the day. And he just kind of, I mean, it was just a great, great run fit. And he came up and he put a huge stick on somebody. So those were kind of my things that stood out to me in practice.
Well, I stood out there for 2 hours and I watched practice. I'm not sure I observed as intently as apparently you did. I instead chose to rely on my contacts. And I reached out to somebody in the organization, on the coaching staff afterwards.
I have no interest in that.
I said, okay, now that you've watched the tape of practice with the Rams, who impressed you the most? And they said, Nealon up front, Marshawn Nealon, obviously an important draft pick with Sam Williams now out for the season. I think that's a more devastating loss than people recognize. Internally, I think they see it as a really significant loss to lose defensive end, pass rusher Sam Williams. Even though he was no longer going to be the gunner on the punt team, which was a remarkable thing that he did last year that just displayed his athleticism. But you mentioned it, Leafau.
You're fine.
Okay.
Leafau.
We'll have him we'll ask him how to pronounce that. They also mentioned Damone Clark, Demarion Overshawn, which he has looked incredible. This guy is a physical freak.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, as Stephen Jones told us, Mike Zimmer loves him. Mike Zimmer really high on him. And Willie Harvey was an unexpected mention at linebacker. And then in the secondary, the draft choice Carson and then Eric Thomas getting some recognition. So I think those are some guys maybe to look for if you watch the game on Sunday. It's interesting to note that not only is Sean McVay not going to play, and maybe Mike McCarthy's going to take the same approach, but Sean McVay's not playing Matthew Stafford or Jimmy Garoppolo. It'll be Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, I know him
from Georgia, who missed all of his rookie season for reasons nobody is willing to yet explain. They put him on a reserve list, and he dealt with some issues that he had, personal issues that he had. But yeah, I think Trey Lance is the guy to watch in this game. It'll be fascinating if he plays well. It'll be significant if he plays exceptionally well throughout the preseason for all it could mean going forward. But yeah, I think that gives you a good sense of. The other thing I wanted to mention, my last thing was going up to Sean McVay after practice. One of the things I did watch, Stafford had this incredible play where he gets pressured by Micah Parsons and tries to check the ball down to a back. And it bounces up in the air and deflected by 2 Cowboys, both of whom appeared in position to make the interception, but neither did. And Stafford followed the ball and makes the catch and sneaks into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked McVay after that about that play. He says, it was a dead play. Micah had the sack. So anything that happened after that didn't really matter, but I thought it was still pretty captivating that Stafford was able to do that.
Ed, you didn't really see anything. That play was dead. Oh, man. I stood in the end zone, by the way, on the red zone, the team red zone, and I got to watch it all come at me. And the only thing negative I'll point out was who's number one, Tolbert. Tolbert, big drop. Dak put a gorgeous ball on him, flat out drop in the end zone. So I wanted to end on a negative.
That's good.
And I always trust, you can trust your sources. I trust my eyes, okay? And,
you put on your glasses, sunglasses indoors. Okay, well, that makes us all feel a lot more.
I think people have been shocked to see my actual glasses. They don't normally see my eyes. Boy, it's been a great one. We appreciate Rogue Media Network. Appreciate Dallas Cowboys, Tad Carper and his staff out here, the PR. They've worked with us and really helped us out immensely. Whitney, everybody, all the credentialing, all the stuff that takes place. We appreciate everybody. And they even catered our meal yesterday.
Buffalo Wild Wings got out there serving them up.
We've turned into total shills. They're like, would you please tweet something out about Buffalo Wild Wings? And we're both like, sure. What? You want us to do a little dance on the Twitter for you?
I wasn't tweeting for the wings we had. I was tweeting for the wings I hope to get as a result. Future wings.
Okay. Future wings. That's nice. All right. So Mike and Zach and Corey and Josh and the whole gang and even Cam, appreciate Rogue Media Network And Ed, I appreciate you. Tremendous work. And Ed has done an unbelievable job sort of securing guests, and then we've tried to execute it. My main job was to assemble a tripod, and by God,
Still in one piece. That's pretty
golly, I found a way to do it. That's right.
good. Now your big task is to pack it up and get it home.
Yeah, they'll never get home. When they found out how much it would cost to ship it, I said, I'm not doing that. Maybe Rogue can step in.
Corey's got that.
That's right. That's right. All right. For now, I will talk to you very soon. And, of course, we have Sunday afternoon, Cowboys and Rams. Good night from Ventura, California, and Cowboys Camp.
We are Rogue Media Sports.